From the boss looking to pit the Brazilian against Khamzat, to getting a chance to see himself locked up with a better opponent, here's the real reason Paulo Costa pulled out of UFC 291. Dana White wants to save Borrachinha for Khamzat Chimaev, and at first, there were rumors surrounding this, but the boss officially confirmed it. Costa was expected to fight Ikram Aliskerov at UFC 291 in Salt Lake City, but Dana thought better of it because Khamzat was available and he's always a massive draw in Abu Dhabi. So Paulo's now going to face Chimaev at UFC 294 in October, and he'll have a chance to settle his account with the Boers. I don't know why it didn't happen in the first place, since both of these made it pretty clear that they wanted to fight each other. But for some reason, Costa was on the cards against Ikram, who's a newcomer in the UFC. The Brazilian's going to be looking to turn his career around now because even though he defeated Luke Rockhold at UFC 278, Paulo suffered 2 back-to-back losses against Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori. There were rumors of him pulling out cause of Khamzat, but some people also thought that he wasn't serious about competing and was just stringing the fans along. The news is huge because it marks the return of 2 of the absolute fan favorites. Costa hasn't competed in a year, and his last fight with Rockhold was in August 2022. While there were talks of him returning to the octagon, nothing truly materialized until he was slated to take on Aliskerov, which was a letdown for most of the fans. Ikram's good, but he still has to make a name for himself in the UFC. Then there's Khamzat, another one of those rowdy fighters who captured the hearts of millions, and seeing him return is a huge sigh of relief for his fans. He too last fought in September 2022 against Kevin Holland, but that quick submission win was stained by the fact that he missed weight by a huge margin. That incident forced Dana to forbid the Boers from competing as a welterweight any longer, and the boss announced that Chimaev would only be fighting at 185 pounds from now on. Ever since Khamzat stepped into the UFC octagon, he's dominated all of his opponents, with the exception of Gilbert Burns, and that one too was a war that everyone enjoyed watching. The man's undefeated in his career, and he isn't afraid of talking crap about his opponents. Dana's admitted that Khamzat could be the next big thing after Conor McGregor, and he'll have a chance to prove that in Abu Dhabi. As I said, the rumors were circulating for some time now, but Costa dropped a huge hint just days after he pulled out of UFC 291. He tweeted that he just signed, which left the fans baffled at first because it had no other details. I mean, he could have signed anything, but then someone connected the dots and figured out that the showdown's happening in Abu Dhabi, because that was the only possible explanation for this. Even before this, Paulo posted an unofficial poster on his Instagram handle, which had a split image of him and Khamzat, and the captain said that the fight at UFC 291 was canceled because he was going to take on the Swede in Abu Dhabi. The Brazilian also claimed that he was going to expose Chimaev, and the UFC's feeding him a gourmet chin-chin. The writing on the walls was already there, guys. Dana just had to make it official. Plus, Costa never misses a chance to take a jab at Khamzat, even going as far as to call him a little insecure weirdo. This back-and-forth battle between these 2 hotheads has been going around for some time, and Khamzat wasn't pulling his punches either. While talking on his YouTube channel, the Boers said that Paulo's been talking a lot of nonsense about him, and he wants to smash him for doing that. This was before Costa dropped out of UFC 291, so Khamzat added that the Brazilian's gonna lose to Ikram as well, even though Chimaev secured a knockout win over Aliskerov. Paulo's never been able to win against any notable opponents, and had a very close call against an aging Yoel Romero, which kind of proves that he doesn't belong in the octagon. Before this, Khamzat even posted a meme of Costa getting dry humped by Izzy after the last stylebender defeated him back in 2020. Obviously, this battle of words between the 2 has left the fans divided as well, with Costa's fans trying to troll Chimaev, and the other group looking to do the same to Borrachinha. You can only imagine what's going to happen when these 2 step into the octagon, because their fight's guaranteed to be electrifying to watch. They'd both do anything to take each other's heads off, and they made it clear when they met at the UFC Performance Institute. Costa was there on the mats minding his own business when Khamzat walked in with a dozen of his guys and started asking why the Brazilian was dragging his name through the mud. Paulo made some comments about Khabib Nurmagomedov in the past, and he even called out Chimaev for his cowardly wrestling style. The Boers wanted to settle things right there and then on the UFC PI mats, but he got dragged off by his guys because Dana doesn't look kindly to fighters engaging outside the octagon. You could see murder in Khamzat's eyes there, but Costa was initially trying to downplay it. Then he too walked away from the boards, hurling insults and giving him the bird after he realized that Chimaev's team wouldn't let him do anything stupid there. Later, the Brazilian claimed that Khamzat was actually scared of going up against him there because he saw how big Paulo is in real life. According to Costa, all Chimaev can do is bully smaller guys in welterweight, and he doesn't have what it takes to step up against real men in the UFC. I doubt the Boers would have been scared to fight a guy, since he grew up in a war-torn country, but that didn't stop Paulo from trash-talking. The whole thing kind of turned on him though, because Costa's ducked fights in the past, and fans weren't just going to believe what he said anymore. During the last couple of years, the Brazilians bowed out of fights against Robert Whittaker twice, and he avoided fighting Jared Cannonier, so the criticism isn't exactly unwarranted. He also showed up to his fight with Vettori a whopping 25 pounds over the middleweight limit, which forced Dana to announce that he won't ever fight as a 185-pounder, but you all know how flexible the boss can be with his decisions. When it was made public that Costa was going to pull out of the UFC 291 card, fans were expecting something similar to happen, because it's all too common for Borrachinha, and his fight with Chimaev wasn't even announced yet. There were memes all over the internet, and this made the Brazilian plead with the UFC, asking them to announce his next match already, because people were picking on him. To be fair, he gave a lot of material to the fans to bully him too. Paulo posted a clip of him working the heavy bag, and people had a lot to say about his technique. His hands were down, he was punching way too low on the bag, and fans were even saying that their grandmothers could punch harder than him. People like trolling the fighters like that, but Costa's big mouth has landed him in a position where the fans just want to lay it into him. Let's just hope he doesn't mess up this opportunity against Khamzat, because he finally has an opponent that would help his stock in the UFC. Like I said, Ikram was good, but with only a single fight under the UFC's banner, he didn't have much to offer in terms of rankings or money. Paulo's ranked at number 7 on the middleweight ladder now, and he desperately needs wins if he wants to challenge for the title again. Chimaev's a massive draw, so that'll help Costa with the cash as well. To be honest, I was a little surprised when Dana announced Ikram was going to fight the Brazilian, but now he said it all straight, and the Dagestani's going to take on Nasuruddin Imavov instead at UFC 294. This makes a lot more sense, since Costa will now get to settle his differences with the Boers, and it'll also give Khamzat a chance to break into the rankings at middleweight. Y'all know how badly Chimaev wanted a title fight, and this might just be the stepping stone he needed to go and get it. All that's left to see now is if these guys can back all the talk and really bring their A game to the octagon in October 2023. So there you have it, fight fans, from getting a chance to see himself locked up with a better opponent, to the boss looking to pit the Brazilian against the Boers. That's the real reason Paulo Costa pulled out of UFC 291.